Hello, I'm pantsgnome, and I'm here to talk to you today about developing some fundamental skill sets through KOVAAKS. Now, a lot of people think if you just play any game on here that you'll actually get better, and I don't really think that that's the case. I think that it really helps you to develop a specific training session where you can develop muscle memory and kind of create a scenario where you do things without even thinking about them. So before we get started, I want to make sure that you guys have the actual correct settings so that when you have a multiplier from specifically Warzone to KOVAAKS that they match up and that you're actually benefiting. Now, if your settings are off, you will kind of be hindering yourself because what you're doing is you're creating a muscle memory based on something that is not usable. It's something else in a different game. So what you do is you click settings, you'll be under main, make sure that your sensitivity scale is Call of Duty under both sensitivity and field of view measurements. Now after that, you want to make sure that your field of view is the same as it is in game. I use 120. This bar will cap out at 103, so you'll have to manually type 120 in there. After that, you want to make sure that your horizontal sensitivity is the same that you use in Call of Duty. So if you're on like 8 cents, 800 DPI, then you would want to change this to 8, for example. This is your cents specifically, but not your DPI. And that's all that's important on this page. After this page, you want to be going into keybinds. I recommend scrolling all the way to the bottom and creating a bind that your reset session is set to something that you can just touch quickly so that you don't waste any time when you're in these sessions, because you can just, if you fail, you just reset back and forth. So change that. Then you go to weapons. Make sure that your show weapon is not on. It's just going to be more clutter in your screen. Go to crosshair scale, pick the image that you like. I would recommend either a small dot or a small crosshair. Use whatever makes you feel comfortable, but this way you can be very accurate. So I picked one of the thicker crosshairs, and then after I did that, you can just change the scaling in here. So you can make it bigger or smaller. Everything else on here is going to be kind of to your preference. So the crosshair bloom shoot sounds you can change. Make sure crosshair bloom is off. When you're done with that, you can go to video. What you want to do with your video settings is going to be based on the monitor you're using and the graphics card. I have a 1440p monitor, so I'm at 1440p. If you're using 1080, then you would go down to this. Making sure that your refresh rate is also the same. Most people are going to have either 59, which is 60, or 143, which is 144. So I have a 144 refresh rate. I picked 144, technically 143, and then the resolution scale will be at 100. If your resolution scale is at 200, you're just going to double this number, so you're basically selling yourself short. It really doesn't benefit you at all. Make sure VSync is off always. You can copy these settings here. No AA, off, shadows off, effects off. So what you want to do now is go over to visuals. What you can see in the background, I have a dark blue wall, purplish brick floor, and like a light blue sky. You can play around with this however you see fit. I would recommend making it all black at first, and then you can kind of pick by preference. But what's really important here is that you change the enemy colors. So I have a red crosshair, so I need something that's going to very much stick out. So I picked a white head because it's a lot easier to see than something like, I don't know, crimson or something like that. And then I have like a light pink purplish body color because also it's very translucent and it'll kind of stand out a little bit. In regards to the roughness, metallic, full bright, you can just play with these. It just makes it kind of look cooler, maybe stand out a little more. This is my settings right now if you wanted to copy them, but you can kind of pick whatever you want. This is all personal preference. Other than that, under miss settings, I would say show only friends on leaderboard is something that you could click. Just depending on how competitive you are, you really want to make sure that you surround yourself with people whose scores that you can compete with, something that you can kind of look at. If you're comfortable with, let's say, a score of 1,000, but your friend has a 1,400, that's going to really push you to kind of work harder. And that's something that helped me a lot throughout my process. So I definitely would recommend that. All right, so now that the settings are done, I'm going to go into how I pick these sessions and why. So in my opinion, there's 4 very important skills that you can develop in KOVAAK that will transfer over to Warzone. The first one is smoothness training. The second one is tracking. The third one is target switching. And the fourth one is called reactive tracking. Of those 4 skills, I would definitely start off with smoothness training because it's almost like a prerequisite for everything else. All right, so smoothness training is a skill that you can develop to let you smoothly track horizontally. And what it does is it stops you from shaking so that everything that you do is intentional. So after you've done smoothness trainer, you want to go into thin aiming long. This is your early tracking and also kind of smoothness like in between. So what you do is I have my reset button binded to Q. and I'll just hit Q until I see the creature in front of me, and then I'll kind of just follow, target, switch, and track. Target, switch, and track. And as you can see, if I shake, it will kind of get me out of the thin long aiming portion. So like I'm going to shake and it'll just get me out of the robot. Now, if you're doing KOVAAKS right, by the end of it, you're actually going to be sore. So after Smoothness Trainer, I went into tracking, which thin aiming long, in my opinion, is the best thing for that. And after that, I think that target switching, pat target easy, is probably the best for this one. The reason I think that is because if you're able to target switch a simple target, you're going to be a lot more prone to being able to target switch a more difficult target. All right, so I'm going to pretty much reset until I see one of the enemies in front of me and then to the side where I can switch quickly. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go based on accuracy versus speed. So I start with this guy, and then if I overshoot, I have to recorrect, and that's going to waste time. So I want to be very precise with my movement. So I'm going from here to here, and I'm stopping. If you need to go slow at first just to kind of get that mobility down, then that's fine. What you're going to do at that point is once you start getting the very precise movement of the target switch is you go faster. See how I overcorrect and it makes me waste like a lot of time? Alright, so now that I've covered smoothness, tracking, and target switching, I'm going to go into like kind of hybrids. So the next thing that I would recommend, especially for Warzone, is tracking robots. Alright, so these bots mimic Warzone very much so because they're moving sideways, strafing, and they're jumping. There's not a lot of other areas that you can get this type of movement. So what I want you to try to do is focus on a specific spot of their body, like the chest or the head, and see if you can kind of create a scenario where you can use all your aim skill that you learn and then go that way. Now, if you want a high score, I would really recommend going for headshots here. Sometimes it can be hard. I like to go for head and chest, almost like moving my mouse up and down. But this is a really unique skill set that can help you track people that are like slide canceling around. And here you can see I have tracking, and then I have target switch. All right, so now that that's done, I'm going to go into something called reactive tracking. Now this is a very difficult skill set to master, and it's based on your reaction speed. So this is just a quick example of it. And basically what I'm doing is I have to follow this bot, and when he moves, I have to move with him. He's not moving in a linear process. He's also going up and down. So I can't just move my mouse in a smooth controlled manner and expect to hit him every time. With him jumping, going up and down the steps, I have to kind of base my movement on what he's doing. In my opinion, reactive tracking is the most difficult thing to kind of understand and get used to. So think about it as the most advanced skill to develop and the fact that it takes a long time. What you're doing is a cumulative incorporation of all the skill sets at the same time. So right here, I'm doing smoothness and tracking simultaneously. And then as he moves, I have to target switch to him. If he moves, like right here, you move right, I have to target switch to him and keep that. And then I have to continue the track along that line. Also, he's moving in different manners. So he's not just left and right. He's going at angles. He's going up and down. There's a lot of different ways to track reactive tracking, but I think it's probably the most beneficial skill once you get all the other ones developed. Here's another example of reactive tracking if the other one wasn't evident enough. So this robot is going to move in a random way. Basically, he just continuously moves away from your mouse. So you have to target switch and then track him. So why does this benefit you? Imagine a really sweaty slide canceling person going left and right, and your body and mind are used to it and ready to track that person just normally. Just every single time he moves, you're ready for it. You're training your reactive skills. So this was a quick guide to a kovaak setup. I could definitely elaborate more on the hows and whys things work. If people have questions, just feel free to give me a DM or a comment. I hope you liked the video. Thank you so much for stopping by.